And then we have that piece around the patch management. Now, I don't think anyone's going to argue around how important it is, especially with the amount of 0 days on vulnerabilities and some very nasty vulnerabilities that we've seen in the past. Obviously, the NHS will know all too well with their lovely efforts with WannaCry, etc. But then some of the recent ones that we've seen around domain controller privileged escalations and stuff that always seem to be consistently coming to the forefront very quickly at the moment, that patching is the best way to prevent the majority of them vulnerabilities. Now, in terms of the definition scope of the Cyber Essentials side, we absolutely, again, I've mentioned around supported apps, but the supported OS. So you must be running on the supported OS, which if you're a Windows estate, which the majority of organizations are, that means Windows 10. Not only does it mean Windows 10, it also means making sure you are in the supported life cycle of Windows 10. Now, I've put the carte blanche statement on there that 1909 should be the minimum that you're currently on. You could be on it on 1803 or 1809 for a little bit longer, but those are rapidly coming out of support. I think, Phil, refresh my memory, is it November, so this month for 1803, and then March because Microsoft extended them for 1809, and then 1909 will be the one that runs for a little bit longer, but you already have 2004 and 20H2 in play. So that ongoing life cycle and the support level for these OSs must be adhered to. You can't sit on 1511 for the rest of your life. You have to have a mechanism of making sure that OS goes up to date when is needed. That also means making sure that all your apps are supported and work with that new OS. And this is probably one of the biggest changes for most organizations in trying to keep up with the speed. And if you want to go down the Cyber Essentials route, this is very important. You must be within support because you then need to be in support to get the patches to fix the vulnerabilities, hence the patch management piece. You can't patch what isn't supported across the OS and the third-party apps. So remove third-party apps when they are not supported anymore and they will not receive security updates. And just to call out, if you're not aware, that includes Adobe Flash. Support for Adobe Flash ends next month. Now, there are still a lot of applications that use Adobe Flash. We work quite extensively with the NHS. We know there's a lot of applications in the NHS that use Adobe Flash. Like I say, the support for it will end in December. You need to start thinking about what your roadmap plan to replace them applications or work with the vendors to get new versions that don't run Adobe Flash. If you have no choice other than to stay with that, then to keep within the support cycle for to meet the requirements for Cyber Essentials, you will have no choice but to go and speak to a third-party licensing vendor that Adobe has done some deals with to create a custom plan for support and maintenance of Flash. No idea what the costings on that is. You can imagine it's going to cost an arm and a leg, but this shows how important it is if you want to meet qualifications like this, that plans are always put in place for removing non-supported applications, even when there's such a big thing as Adobe Flash. Now, while the support ends for that, there is an update already out that you can manually run to completely remove it from the OS. That update will become much more of a optional update in a few more months, coming from WSUS or Config Manager, or whichever way you do your updating, but it will be marked as a recommended and therefore deployed early next year. So there is no way to start avoiding this. You need to have the plans in place, but generally make sure that every app that you have within your environment has a support statement. You record that, you know it, you know that you can get security updates, and you are patching your third-party apps. It's no good just knowing about it. You need to have a mechanism to be able to actually update them to whatever the latest version that you required. Talk about updates and getting them out there. One of the requirements that we start to look at around the Cyber Essentials piece is the speed that you do your patches. So anything that is critical, you could go down a little bit more granular, and if you really get into the nitty-gritties of it, you're talking about ones with high threat CVS scores, so they talk about 7+. However, going through each one really granularly and trying to decide at that time can be quite a bit of overhead for most IT organizations. I certainly haven't got time every single time a bulletin is released, which there's multiples daily, to sit and decide whether I need to do an emergency plan deployment. It's easier to start looking at how you can adopt a much more rapid general approach to patching and basically just say any update that is flagged as critical, regardless of whether it's a CVSS score of 5, 6, or 7, or 8, don't really care. If it's marked as critical and security, just deploy it so that all your devices are updated within 14 days. That 14 days is a requirement from the Cyber Essentials side. So you need to work out what your patching strategy is to get these updates out, still in a controlled manner. I wouldn't recommend going and deploying every single update to every single machine in your environment on day one, but still look at really reducing your cycle of these updates to devices. And this isn't just selectively, we deployed it to 5 or 6, that's okay. We've got these extra 200 devices that are sat somewhere in the business that we're not going to patch because we're a bit more worried about them. No, this is to get all devices that are active within your environment up to date for critical patches within 14 days. Sounds like I'm stressing it and taking a bit of time over it. It's because I am, because it's a big mind shift change for most organizations. It goes away from that selective choosing of patches here and there, doing the assessments, doing a bit of testing, and going much more into that quicker speed of deploying, knowing your estate that is standardized well enough and phasing it out across to capture the non-critical ones first, to be able to put a hold on it while you go and assess it quickly, to then let it continue across